And we are back to the adventures of the mighty B9 robot and his human cohorts. This time, Dr. Smith and Will find what's essentially a wishing machine. Unfortunately, the wishes sort of become like a drug. The kids fight over it. Dr. Smith tries to use the machine to get a living servant, and that was basically one step too far. Whatever destroyed the creatures who created the machine, or seemed to create the machine, I guess that was their one rule. No living servants. Because apparently the machine ended up creating this giant Frankenstein-like creature with a melted face, an unearthly moan for communication, and the worst part, it wasn't wearing any pants. Now you couldn't see anything, but still, it was creepy. I mean, once again, audiences must have had heart attacks when they saw that thing. And as soon as Smith made that bad wish, all the stuff that everyone wished for, it immediately went sour, proving that wishing for stuff is not the way to go. Next, the family decides to build essentially a life raft, taking one of the nuclear reaction chambers out of their ship and fashioning it into a balloon-launched rocket, basically. It goes up to the edge of the sky, and a small rocket charge gets it the rest of the way into space. Unfortunately, Will and Dr. Smith accidentally get stuck in the ship when it launches, and at first they seem to end up in the US's Badlands, but no. They're still on the same planet they've always been, just on a different area. This one populated by semi-sentient plants. And they want someone to tend their garden, and they will provide for them, but it's sort of a life career. Luckily, the family arrives just in time to save Smith and Will from a very tedious fate. Props to the costume department for creating this plant creature. It has two heads and is very creepy. Once again, nightmare fuel for kids in the 60s. Next, we meet an old, really old, astronaut dog who might have been part of the first cryogenic experiments in space. See, the Robinsons had cryo units on their ship, and this technology might have been derived from this poor dog's tests. Unfortunately, a meteor storm early in the episode also wakes up a mutation of some kind. The thing looks like a demon or something out of Greek mythology. And it is really, really aggressive. Add on to the fact that Dr. Smith decided to take apart all the laser weapons in order to quote-unquote clean them, and he couldn't get them all back together again, and you have a recipe for disaster. Next, the Robinsons have to deal with getting fuel for their ship, radioactive material, that apparently these sinister doppelganger-creating plants also need to feed on. And they go so far as to create a copy of Judy in order to get the radioactive material. And they very nearly cover the planet. Luckily, the Robinsons managed to figure out a way to take out the plants without harming Judy. And the episode just sort of ends without much resolve. I mean, they get Judy back, but they also have a copy of Judy. This series is weird when it comes to continuity. For instance, in the last episode of this segment, Will uses a matter transfer unit that the Greek-looking aliens from earlier in the series used to get to and from the planet they're on. And no one questioned the fact that this continuity stays and other continuity is brushed aside. It's weird. So yeah, Will manages to get to Earth, and no one believes he's actually Will Robinson. It's been like a year since the Robinsons left, and everyone has given them up for dead. It's kind of sad, really. Luckily, Will gets a few sympathetic ears in the form of a kindly old lady and her nephew, who take him in and feed him and try to provide for him as best they could, but the only thing that Will succeeds in doing is getting a chemical that is desperately needed for food preservation back on the planet. And once again, continuity is disregarded. Not sure exactly if this has any future implications, but who knows. So yeah, that's it for this batch of episodes. When next we see the Robinsons, we get our first official two-parter of the show. See you later.